Did you know that feeling lonely after 70 can be as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day? I discovered this shocking fact after my own journey with isolation following my retirement as a high school teacher 8 years ago. Hello, friends. I'm Richard, and at 78, I've learned that staying connected isn't just about having company, it's about staying alive. When I first read the research from Brigham Young University showing that loneliness increases mortality risk by 26%, I couldn't help but think about my dear friend Carlos, who seemed to fade away after losing his wife of 52 years. He wasn't sick, he was lonely. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. After spending countless hours researching and interviewing experts, plus drawing from my own experience of rebuilding connections in my golden years, I've discovered 5 powerful strategies that can help us not just survive, but truly thrive in our later years. Now you might be thinking, Richard, I've heard all this before. Just join a club or call your grandkids. But what I'm going to share goes far deeper than those surface-level solutions that often feel forced or unnatural. When my neighbor, Patricia, told me she was tired of being told to just get out more, I understood completely. It's not about filling our calendars with meaningless activities, it's about creating genuine connections that make our hearts sing. You see, back in 2019, I found myself sitting alone in my house for days on end, watching the world go by through my living room window. My wife Sarah was still working part-time at the library, and our children had moved to different states. The silence was deafening. That's when I started noticing subtle changes. My blood pressure crept up, my appetite decreased, and most worryingly, my mind didn't feel as sharp as it used to. My doctor explained that social isolation wasn't just making me feel blue, it was actually affecting my physical health. This revelation set me on a path to understanding the intricate connection between loneliness and our well-being after 70. Through my research, I discovered that social isolation increases our risk of dementia by 50% and doubles our risk of heart disease. But here's the beautiful truth I've learned. We have more power to change our situation than we might think. The solutions I'm about to share with you have transformed not only my life, but also the lives of countless others in our age group who've implemented these strategies. Take my friend Eleanor, for instance. At 82, she was convinced that her social life was over after moving to a new city to be closer to her son. Within 6 months of applying these techniques we're about to discuss, she built a circle of friends that she now considers family. Or consider James, a 75-year-old widower who thought technology was his enemy. Now he hosts weekly virtual book clubs with friends across the country. These aren't just feel-good stories. They're real examples of how we can rebuild our social connections at any age. As we explore these 5 transformative strategies together, I want you to remember that feeling lonely isn't a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's a natural human experience that we can actively address. The key is understanding that connection in our 70s, 80s, and beyond looks different from what it did in our younger years. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, I've found that the connections we make in our later years can be even more meaningful because we're finally wise enough to appreciate their true value. Let's start with the first strategy, which completely changed my perspective on how to initiate new friendships at our age. The first strategy I discovered, which I call purpose-driven. Connection completely transformed how I approach social interactions. Instead of forcing myself into generic social situations, I learned to connect through shared interests and meaningful activities. Let me tell you about how this worked for my friend Beatrice, who was convinced she was too old to make new friends. At 75, she'd always loved gardening, but had scaled back after her arthritis made it difficult to manage her yard alone. One day, I suggested she join our local garden sharing program, where people with physical limitations partner with younger gardening enthusiasts who need space to grow. Within weeks, Beatrice had 3 regular visitors helping in her garden, and more importantly, She was sharing her decades of gardening wisdom with eager learners. The key here isn't just the activity, it's the sense of purpose and reciprocity that makes these connections stick. You see, research from the Stanford Center on Longevity shows that intergenerational relationships are particularly beneficial for seniors, reducing depression by 30% and increasing cognitive function. The second strategy focuses on what I call technology with purpose. Now, I know many of us have a complicated relationship with smartphones and computers. When my arthritis started making it difficult to type, I nearly gave up on digital communication altogether. But then my granddaughter introduced me to voice, commands, and video calling, and it opened up a whole new world. I'm not suggesting we need to become tech experts. Far from it. Instead, I learned to focus on just 3 digital tools that genuinely enhance my connections. For me, it's video calling, a community app for seniors in my area, and a photo-sharing platform that helps me stay connected with my grandchildren. The trick is to choose technology that serves our needs rather than complicating our lives. Take my friend Daniel, for instance. At 83, he was initially resistant to any form of technology, but after learning about voice-activated devices, he now uses them to maintain daily contact with his daughter in Seattle. He starts each morning by asking his smart speaker to call her while he has his coffee. It's become their special ritual. This brings me to an important point about maintaining connections. Consistency matters more than quantity. When I first started feeling lonely, I thought I needed to fill every hour with social activities. But I quickly learned that meaningful connection isn't about constant interaction. It's about regular, reliable contact with people who matter to us. Dr. Rachel Chen, a gerontologist I interviewed for this research, explained that having just 2 or 3 strong, consistent social connections can be more beneficial than a dozen superficial ones. This is particularly relevant for those of us who might have mobility issues or live in areas where getting out frequently isn't practical. I developed what I call the 15-minute connection rule, spending just 15 minutes each day reaching out to someone in a meaningful way. Sometimes it's a phone call to my old colleague Robert. Other times it's sending a thoughtful message to my neighbor Sophia about the book she lent me. The key is making these interactions intentional and genuine rather than obligatory. One of the most powerful aspects of this approach is how it builds momentum naturally. When I started practicing these consistent, purposeful connections, I noticed something fascinating. People began reaching out to me more often. It's like creating a positive feedback loop of social interaction. My friend Teresa, who used to go days without speaking to anyone, started by simply walking to her mailbox at the same time each day. She noticed another resident, Luis, did the same, and their daily mail check chats gradually evolved into a morning coffee routine that now includes 5 neighbors. This organic growth of connections is what makes these strategies so sustainable. They don't feel forced or artificial, like some of the standard advice we often receive. Let's dive into our third strategy, which I call Redefining Community, and it's been an absolute game changer for so many of us. Before I share this transformative approach, I want to take a moment to connect with you directly. If you're finding value in these strategies and want to join our community of active, engaged seniors who are committed to living their best lives, please hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. I share new insights and practical tips every week, and our community's comments often add wonderful perspectives that enhance everyone's experience. Now back to Redefining Community. This strategy challenged everything I thought I knew about social connections after 70. You see, I used to believe that community meant the people physically closest to us, but I've learned that modern community can take many forms. Take my friend Yoshiko, for example. At 77, she felt isolated in her suburban neighborhood until she discovered online watercolor painting classes. Not only did she improve her artistic skills, but she also formed deep friendships with fellow painters across the country. They now have weekly virtual painting sessions where they share their works, discuss techniques, and support each other through life's ups and downs. The key is finding what I call your passion peers, people who share your interests, regardless of where they live. The fourth strategy focuses on what I've termed health-aligned socializing. This approach came to me after noticing how many seniors, including myself, were struggling to balance their health needs with their social lives. I remember feeling frustrated when I couldn't join my friends for their regular tennis matches anymore due to my knee problems. But then I started hosting walking and talking sessions instead, where a group of us would take gentle walks around the local park, moving at whatever pace felt comfortable. These sessions became so popular that we now have 3 different groups meeting throughout the week, each walking at their own preferred speed. This strategy isn't just about physical activity, it's about creating social opportunities that support our overall well-being. My friend Abdul, who manages diabetes, started a cooking club where members share healthy recipes adapted for various dietary needs. What began as a small group of 4 now has 15 regular members who meet both in person and virtually to cook, share meals, and support each other's health journeys. The beauty of health-aligned socializing is that it addresses multiple needs simultaneously. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that combining social interaction with physical activity can reduce the risk of cognitive decline by up to 40%. I've found that when we align our social activities with our health goals, we're more likely to maintain both the relationships and the healthy habits. Another crucial aspect of this strategy is what I call comfort zone expansion. This isn't about pushing ourselves too far, but rather gradually extending our social boundaries in ways that feel manageable. For instance, Ruby, an 81-year-old member of our community, was initially hesitant to join group activities due to her hearing impairment. We worked together to find solutions, and she now hosts small gatherings of 3 to 4 people in her home where everyone knows to speak clearly and face her when talking. These intimate gatherings have become cherished social events that everyone looks forward to. The key to making these strategies work is understanding that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's perfectly fine. The goal is to find approaches that feel authentic and sustainable for your specific situation. I've seen incredible transformations happen when people give themselves permission to create social connections that truly work for them, rather than trying to force themselves into pre-existing social molds. The 5th strategy I want to share with you is what I've come to call emotional authenticity in connection, and it's perhaps the most powerful yet challenging approach we'll discuss. This strategy emerged from a profound realization I had during a conversation with my friend Thomas, a retired psychologist who's now 85. He pointed out that many of us in our age group grew up in an era where showing vulnerability was often seen as weakness, especially for men. But here's the fascinating thing. Research from the University of California shows that authentic emotional connections become increasingly important for our mental and physical health as we age. I started experimenting with this approach by simply being more honest about my own struggles and joys. When my grandson asked how I was doing one day, instead of my usual "I'm fine," I shared how I genuinely felt about missing his grandmother on our wedding anniversary. This led to one of the most meaningful conversations we'd ever had. The response was remarkable. Not only did our relationship deepen, but he started calling more regularly and sharing more of his own life with me. This brings us to an advanced aspect of connection that many seniors overlook: the role of reciprocal vulnerability. My friend Olivia, who's 79, discovered this accidentally when she started being more open about her challenges with technology. Instead of pretending to understand everything, she began asking for help from younger family members. To her surprise, this led to them asking for her advice about life experiences, creating a beautiful exchange of wisdom and support. I've developed what I call the 3-level sharing approach, which has helped many seniors in our community deepen their connections. Level 1 involves sharing daily experiences and observations, like commenting on the weather or local events. Level 2 moves into sharing opinions and ideas, perhaps discussing a book you've read or a show you've watched. Level 3, the most powerful, involves sharing feelings and personal experiences. The key is moving gradually through these levels as comfort and trust build. Dr. Samantha Rodriguez, a social gerontologist I interviewed, explained that this kind of graduated sharing helps build stronger, more resilient relationships that can actually improve our cognitive function and immune system response. Another crucial aspect of this strategy involves what I call connection maintenance. Just like a garden needs regular tending, our relationships require consistent care. My friend Chen, who's 88, keeps a simple journal where he notes important details from conversations with friends and family, birthdays, health updates, grandchildren's names, and upcoming events. This allows him to follow up meaningfully in future conversations, showing people he truly cares about what's happening in their lives. This leads us to an often overlooked aspect of senior socialization, the importance of being a good listener. I found that many of us are so eager to share our own stories and experiences that we sometimes forget to create space for others to share theirs. I developed a simple technique I call the pause and probe method. After someone shares something, I pause for a moment, then ask a thoughtful question about what they've just said. This has transformed many of my surface-level acquaintances into deeper friendships. For example, when my neighbor David mentioned he was feeling tired. Lately, instead of sharing my own sleep troubles, I paused and asked him how this was affecting his daily life. This led to a meaningful discussion about aging and adaptation that brought us much closer. As we wrap up our discussion on combating loneliness after 70, I want to share a personal story that brings all these strategies together. Last year, I found myself sitting in my doctor's office receiving some concerning news about my blood pressure. The doctor asked about my social connections, and I proudly shared how I'd transformed my life using these 5 strategies we've discussed. To my surprise, she revealed that my health markers had actually improved over the past 2 years, something she rarely sees in patients my age. She attributed this directly to my increased social engagement and the meaningful connections I'd built. Friends, this isn't just about having people to talk to. It's about creating a life where we continue to grow, contribute, and thrive well into our golden years. Before I share my final thoughts, I want to encourage you to join our thriving community of active seniors. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and share your own connection story in the comments below. I read every comment, and your experiences might just help another person who's feeling isolated right now. Now let me tell you about my friend Rosa, who applied all 5 strategies we discussed and experienced what she calls her second bloom at age 82. She combined purpose-driven connection by starting a Spanish language group, technology with purpose by using video calls to teach her language skills, redefining community by connecting with other language enthusiasts online, health-aligned socializing by incorporating walking meetups with her language practice, and emotional authenticity by sharing her immigrant story with her students. The transformation in her life has been nothing short of remarkable. Her blood pressure improved, her depression lifted, and she now has a waiting list for her language groups. The beauty of these strategies is that they work together synergistically. When you align your social activities with your health goals, practice emotional authenticity, and maintain consistent connections through technology, you create a robust support system that can weather any storm. I've seen this work for seniors of all backgrounds and circumstances. Take my friend Howard, who lives in a rural area with limited transportation options. By combining virtual connections with occasional in-person meetups, He's built a rich social life that works perfectly for his situation. Remember, friends, loneliness isn't a normal part of aging. It's a challenge we can actively address. In next week's video, I'll be sharing specific techniques for adapting these strategies if you have mobility issues or live in a remote area, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these 5 strategies resonates most with you? What's your biggest challenge in staying connected? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what another member of our community needs to hear. And if you found value in today's discussion, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from these strategies. Remember, every like and share helps our community grow, allowing us to reach more seniors who might be feeling isolated right now. We're in this together, friends, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, this is Richard, reminding you that it's never too late to build meaningful connections and create a life filled with joy and purpose. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in our next video.